California Representative Zoe Lofgren and Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon have written an article for Wired about their work to reform the Cfaa. And they are calling this Aaron's Law, after Aaron Swartz. And they're pointing out something very important, which is that the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, it really needs to be reformed. And we've said this before. It's very broad, it's very vague. Well, specifically the problems they say with that is that it's so vague that infringements like logging onto your Facebook at work or doing
lying about your age
on a forum, or or those websites that say, what is your age, and you put in a different age. Well, that's enough to convict you.
Like pornography websites.
I was going to say like violent games, but sure. Porn too. Porn for everyone.
We know you're not 18. Come on.
And, well, see, the vagueness of the Cfaa makes that a felony. Makes
pretty serious felony.
Idiotic things a serious felony. And that is, what also it does is that it enables a person to be punished multiple times under redundant provisions. That is how Aaron Swartz got a sentence that was higher than if he had robbed a bank with a gun for
35 years in prison?
35 years.
35 years.
For what he did was he was an internet activist, and he was a freedom activist of information, and he was making academic papers that were, by the way, published with public money available to the public. That doesn't seem so bad.
That monster.
Yeah, so, he had been kind of a thorn in their side. So they're like, let's pile it on. Let's just really fuck this guy.
I mean, it's scare tactics.
Yeah.
It's scaring, the people into behaving, into standing in line and not doing things that are, that they don't want them to do.
Well, there needs to be common sense in this. You can't just blindly, well, this law applies here, and that's worse than robbing a bank. The vilifying they did to him was wrong, and it was completely unjustified, and it was completely unnecessary. So yes, Aaron's Law needs to happen. And what it does is also differentiate between common online activities and actual harmful attacks. And I think that's a very important differentiation to make.
Now, forgive me, I don't recall the names, but I think it was a member of Anonymous that hacked some emails that exposed the Steubenville rapists.
Mm-hmm.
He was
KY Anonymous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was said that he could face a sentence substantially longer than the rapists themselves.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, there needs to be more common sense legislation. It needs to be reformed. And they've published this article in Wired, and they are working on making this law transparent. They've published it to Reddit to ask for people's input on what would work and what would not work, what seems like it should be a part of legislation and not, because they've been trying very hard to apply real sense to it. I mean, maybe they're not the best people, they're not hacktivists or people who work on the online world extensively. They're politicians, but they are trying to get some real perspective on things. So,
is it possible that something like this could change? Because the U.S. has a history of vague, large umbrella type legislature that paints a wide picture so that they can gather from many sources, like the Patriot Act, like PRISM, all these things.
Well, if you don't restrain any abuse of power, that power is going to be abused. And it's been shown time and time again that not only was the abuse failed to be curbed, it caused even more abuse, the government officials. And so the writers of this article are saying that we can't be inactive. We have to keep making ourselves clear that we want this to happen, that there needs to be reform, and that you need to make your intentions loud and clear. I say this almost every story we do on a very serious topic, is that you need to make your opinions heard, and you cannot have inaction if you care about this, because then nothing will happen. That continued abuse of power will just keep going and even snowball.
So what can people do at home to get Aaron's Law added?
You need to tell your representatives. These two politicians, they're representatives. They represent people and what they think and what they feel like should be a law. So
there's no petition, no link we could put in the description?
I'm getting to that. I will put a link in the description for how you can get involved if you do care about the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act and its need to be reformed, which I do personally, and I think most people do.
Agreed, 100%.